Hello. Today, we're going to talk about Fake Uni's video here. We're going to go over a few different things, but before we go into all of this, I'm not going to react to the whole thing because I don't want to detract from his video. I want you guys to go and watch this. So please drop a sub and then hit a like on it. Please, it was a really good, informative video. A lot of speculation. Nothing here is concrete, but a lot of it is making a lot of sense. And if the food smells good, it's probably going to be good, you know? So just saying, it might be real. So before we start reacting to a couple different parts here, I want to go over China's rules on forced PvP, and it is anything but something that the West is interested in, that's for sure. So in December 2023, China's National Press and Publication Administration proposed draft rules that would prohibit online games from forcing players into player versus player scenarios. That sound familiar? Cause that sounds very familiar to me. The rules also include other restrictions on video games, such as limiting how much a player can top up their account, aka the Giga Whales are put on a leash, prohibiting rewards that encourage excessive play and spending, such as daily login rewards. Now, this one specifically is actually quite interesting to me because BDO's whole game design is based on staying logged into the game, being on the game 24/7, AFK life skilling, AFK events, you know, sitting on there. A lot of the rewards that are done in BDO are based on playtime and how long you're on the game for. Logging in and being on the game is part of events, it's part of game rewards. It is a big part of BDO in general. And with JJ leaving the company as well and going to NCSoft, it makes me wonder if maybe that was something that she was not interested in the sense of creative differences and just the way that she wants to operate and do things, because JJ was a big reason that we got a lot of dope events. We got a lot of sick events. She wasn't the sole reason, as Blue corrected me on, but the reality is that she still spearhead the entire operation. So things were going through her regardless, and maybe because of these restrictions and the way that she felt like the game was going to suffer in the West, maybe she thought you know, this isn't how I want to operate. This isn't what I want to do. Again, that's me speculating. Nothing concrete, but I could see it, right? I could see it. And then alerting users about irrational consumption behavior. I'm not sure what the hell they're going on about this one, but whatever. So the point being here is that BDO is essentially changing their game to meet China's insane standards on PvP, which all the PvP changes totally fall in line with this specifically. I'm not even kidding. It's word for word basically. It's so hard not to assume that this is a big reason, that this is a giant portion of why we got so many changes that we're just not it. And if we come take over here too, we'll check here. So the analysis seemed interested in two subjects. The first is the progress of introducing the PC version of Black Desert Online into the People's Republic of China. The latest progress report is that all the paperwork was turned into the authorities and waiting to begin approval. Stepping outside the presentation, Pearl Abyss optimism is not misplaced. In January, the Chinese government approved 115 new video game titles, in the largest amounts in 18 months. Pearl Abyss partner in the People's Republic, Snail Games China, is not the biggest player in the Chinese market, but has not incurred the wrath of the regime either. That changed less than 3 weeks later at Spark 2024, as Tencent revealed Black Desert Online as part of its gaming lineup in China. 9 days later, Pearl Abyss announced that Black Desert Online was among the 15 foreign video games approved by China's National Press and Publication Administration, which is the thing that we just talked about right here, Public Administration, NPPA, which is the reason why that we have the PvP changes for the most part, it seems like. I didn't realize Pearl Abyss had switched partners in China, but I'm not surprised, and with very limited time between the announcement of the deal and granting of the license, I wouldn't count on BDO operating in China this year. The Spring Festival holiday and Lunar New Year run from the 28th of January to the 3rd in February in 2025. So I think a December or January launch makes sense, which means the game may not launch in China until 2025. So with that being said, yeah, this is kind of spooky because it seems like they're just trying to cater to China in the sense of just trying to get the game out there as quickly as possible and as soon as possible, considering that they're also hemorrhaging money like crazy right now with all the negativity and people in the West dropping the game pretty much wholeheartedly. Not only that, but with Throne and Liberty, New World, and other games that are just relaunching and coming out in general, not to mention all the other MMOs like Ashes of Creation and a bunch of other games that are still also being talked about and at the sense right now. And then War Within on World of Warcraft is also coming out as well. You got to realize that BDO on the West, with all the changes and them focusing on China, all the other games are kind of getting a lead up on them for the time being. And the only way BDO is kind of feeling like they're going to recover is if they succeed in China. Like, China is widely known for having massive influence on video games. I don't know if you guys remember the Blitzchung incident where he just kind of screamed out, you know, free Hong Kong or whatever the statement was during the tournament. And then Blizzard like struck his rewards and then, you know, banned him or whatever, just incurring China's wrath of just controlling that type of situation. So that happened. And then not only that too, but Blizzard actually had a controversy with NetEase, which is their publishing company that was getting Hearthstone and World of Warcraft in China. And they had kind of broken up, and China was blocking those games from being released over there or being active in China. And then recently they got back together, and NetEase and Blizzard are now, you know, kind of friends again for whatever reason. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what the exact situation was, but they're now working together again, and World of Warcraft and Hearthstone is back in China. You got to think about it from the perspective of World of Warcraft too, because I'm very familiar with World of Warcraft. I've been playing that game for 16 years now, and that game has pretty much gone full baby mode, right? Like, it's super streamlined, it's super simple, and it's incredibly easy to kind of like get into once you get your footing. I'd still say it has a new player issue where, like, you know, you kind of need somebody to guide you to play the game a little bit, or you need to watch a little bit of guides, and that's just Blizzard's ineptitude of just kind of catering to veterans still, and they need to stop doing that. But I would argue that once you get your footing, it's very easy to get from the bottom of the barrel to pretty much the top of the top. I would not say that World of Warcraft is impossibly hard or incredibly difficult. I would say BDO is definitely, in the larger sense of the reality of it's more difficult to get into. However, with how streamlined World of Warcraft is and how easy it was to kind of get things going on over there, they still basically bent over for China. Like, they did everything right that I would say meets China's requirements for the most part, and they still were having difficulties. BDO is almost the polar opposite of what World of Warcraft was, whereas for right now, at least when BDO was released, and at the time of BDO's release, and then if you think of the time, Blizzard was steering away from their PvP too. They were steering away from their hardcore, super like racist heavy like combat. And when I say racist heavy, I don't mean like there's actual racism. I just mean like Alliance versus Horde, which was literally just, the game was racist. It was based in racism. It was like, fuck the Horde, fuck Alliance, down with orcs, down with humans, down with night elves. Like, literally the game was based in racism. Like, that's kind of what it like literally was, which is what made it cool to me, because it was like, damn, like this is actually just bad blood at the video game. And then they slowly steered away from that, and then we ended up with pandas and Gul'dan doing some freak shit and all kinds of other weirdo stuff that was going on. And now we're just seeing the absolute depravity where just the company's in shambles, but they're trying to bring it back. And War Within looks promising anyway, so we'll see. But like, I'm just merely pointing out the fact that Blizzard has quite literally done everything right in the sense of China's rules. If we're just strictly talking about China's rules, Blizzard has done pretty much everything to alleviate most of the restrictions in the game that would allow the game to be publicized out there. And it still has issues. It still has problems being out there. Like I said, it's only recently that World of Warcraft and Hearthstone got back in the China market after, you know, coming to some kind of contractual agreement with NetEase. So I don't even know what to say about this at that point. Now, there's another point in Fake Uni's video here that I want to talk about that I thought was very, very interesting. So we're going to watch this for a brief moment. I'm going to touch on it, and then we're going to end the video.
China is going to get the absolute best version of BDO, and they're not going to, and that's the thing, China's not going to run into the same problems that we have right now with Deborica accessories and things like that. Think about it, because when console had come out, console had got released in a very unique way, but console still got released in chapters, just like all these other regions have gotten released in chapters. Korea gets things first, we follow after, other regions follow beyond that. Console gets things whenever Jay figures out how it's going to work on console. But I'm willing to put a lot of my chips on the table here, if not all of them, that China is going to have the same type of release that we've seen, where it's going to be in chapters, such as Balanos, Serendia, Calphian, maybe see a Medaya region release, maybe see a Valencia region release, maybe see a Kama Sylvia region release. Who knows if they'll even go up to C20? Maybe they'll do C10, because C10 seems to be the direction that they've headed with the Fallen God armors and pieces like that. Eventually seeing Drigan release, Odalita release, Mountain of Eternal Winter release. Land of the Morning Light, Ulakita. The whole point of what I'm getting at is PA is not going to put all their cards on the table, and China will not run into the same issues that we currently have for potentially years to come. If any, maybe we'll have a solution by then. I would love that to be the case scenario. I would love to see some positive influence, have a really good turnaround for the state of the game. But with all the conspiracies that I have been hearing with the Chinese influence, I just haven't seen a lot of material that kind of backs the conspiracy. So that's why I've tried to take my time in trying to make sense of a lot of this stuff. And the more that I start to ponder it, the more I start to put some of these pieces together to make sense of this type of stuff seems to make the most sense to me. So again, I'm not saying this is factual. I'm not saying this is whatever, but I do think it's something more interesting to consider based on some of the changes that we've actually been having and been seeing, and potential influence we may have in the future and near future as well.
So that point right there, when he talked about console getting released in chapters, that is very true. We did get released in a lot of different ways, and it was out of order too. Like, we got Land of the Morning Light before Eternal Winter, Strange, and I think it was just due to, I don't know what the reason is. Like, I don't want to believe that the only reason we couldn't get Eternal Region is because they couldn't figure out how to do snow mechanics on console. But like, after playing it, I quite literally do not understand a single reason why we did not get that region, other than the snow mechanics just broke the game or something. It makes no sense. It literally makes no sense. The only other option is, yeah, we just didn't feel like putting the resources to put it on console. That's like the biggest thing that I'm hoping is not the case. And I would rather it be like, yeah, the snow mechanics, you know, the blizzard effects, it was kind of breaking the game, so we didn't know how to fix that, so we just kind of waited for it to happen later. But it's most likely the latter, where they didn't want to commit resources to getting that region out, which maybe Land of the Morning Light was far easier to release because it was designed with console in mind or something. I don't fucking know. But there was a part in here that he said where it was released in chapters, and the way that essentially, like, the way everything is going to be released in China is going to be similar to console, which I do agree with because of what Trent and Sherna said a long time ago. If I can find the clip, which I probably won't, so I'm probably not going to post it whenever I'm done editing this and whatnot, but if I can find the clip, I'll do a little bit of looking around and see if I can find it, but I doubt I'm going to be able to. But I vividly remember this, and those of you that tuned into those streams, I'm sure you remember this, but Trent and Sherna specifically spoke about the way that Caphras functioned on console and how that they enjoyed and liked the way that it was released on console versus the way it was released on PC. So for those of you that are unaware, Caphras were just straight up released on PC, right? There was no C5, then C10, then C20 or whatever. It just, you know, they just gave it to PC, right? They didn't release it in chapters like they did for console. So on console, we got C5, and then we got C10, and then we got, you know, C20, right? And that came over, you know, a course of I don't know how many years, right? So when Trent and Sherna were expressing why that was, because at the time there was a lot of console players asking, hey, how come we're only getting Caphras in these sections? Why are we not just getting full-on Caphras? Everybody has so much AP in the game, and because they have so much AP in the game, people aren't tanky enough to survive certain, you know, situations, right? And that was a big issue that console had, is that the game and the way it progressed was so incredibly fast. Like, everybody was so sweaty on console, so all the top end players and all the like super sweats, we all were running basically RBF Giga Tank, like not Giga Tank, but like just Giga Destroyer builds, right? We were just running around straight up deleting people. The meta back then was double disto, if you know, running full fucking like straight up Dandy Zarka. This was before Black Star was even out. We didn't even have Odalita to get that, and when we got Odalita, we still didn't get Black Stars, so that was even strange. But for the most part, like, it makes a lot of sense that they basically kind of used us as beta testers for fucking China. Like, that's what it feels like right now. Like, we're just China's beta testers, which is crazy. But just based off of that comment alone, where Sherna and Trent were gathering data on console and how the Caphras were affecting the market, and they actually spoke about the market too, where they were talking about where the market was much more valuable and it was more of a management thing. At first, it was where like Caphras were just sitting on the market. When Caphras first came out, them shits was less than a million silver. They were like, right now they're like 3 mil because, you know, the game is kind of shit. But back then, Caphras were sitting on the market like crazy. Like, you were able to, you know, C5 your gear like that. It was so quick. You could buy Caphras left and right like nothing. It was just so not needed. It was just readily available on the market because the cap was C5. and the amount of players that were capped at C5 was almost the entire player base, because nobody needed Caphras. Nobody needed that shit because it was so easy to get. And you could argue whether that's healthy or not healthy, but I think that is what they're going for with China, is that they're trying to get them caught up, or they're trying to get them just on a level where they're going to be content and happy and stay on the game. I don't know how they plan to do that with the login restrictions and like staying online restrictions, but it is just an interesting speculation idea. So let me know what you guys think about all this whole China stuff, but a lot of the stuff makes sense. And remember, please go sub to Fake Uni and go drop a like on this video. It was actually very informative, and I think that you guys will learn and understand a lot more than you will here. This is just my speculation, consoles perspective and whatnot. But yeah, thank you guys for coming. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.